And now to the talk by Jesus Paco Estrada, and he was born and raised in South Central Los Angeles. He graduated from Loyola Marymount University just this past May with dual degrees in theology and Spanish, and he currently works as a legislative intern in the office of California State Senator Maria Elena Durazo. And he's already immersed himself deeply in advocating for important causes for a number of years, including being selected to speak directly with Pope Francis during a global migration and justice initiative. He was in a leadership position for Catholic Climate Covenant, called the Common Home Core Fellowship, in which he has led youth groups both at the local and national level on climate action, environmental stewardship, and sustainability practices. And so we're very happy tonight to have him share his fresh experience of being one of the pilgrims that went to the Raising Hope conference at the Vatican, and was also visited other sites, including Assisi. And he's going to take us from here. So thank you very much, Paco, for being here.
Thank you, Mark, for that very wonderful introduction. I forgot how you got that. I was very shocked, but appreciate it. I'm going to be sharing my screen here shortly. And hi, everyone. My name's Jesus Paco Estrada. I just go by Paco. I realized earlier that this is my work computer, and I still had my work Zoom name, so I had to switch it very quickly. But very happy that you guys are making time on a random 7 p.m. afternoon to hear me yap and hear me talk about my trip. I mean, I can feel like I could talk about this forever. It was a really wonderful experience. As many of you know, we're in a whole year Jubilee pilgrimage, time for us to go visit and be on pilgrimage either where we are or visit in Rome. And I had the opportunity to be selected by two organizations, thanks to my climate environmental work, to go and participate in the Jubilee pilgrimage to Rome. So I'm just here to share a little bit of my experience, hopefully bring you all along, talk a little bit more about my own advocacy journey, and hope that you all enjoy. Okay, so just a quick introduction. I mentioned that there were these two groups that brought a bunch of young people together. One of them were the Maryknoll Fathers and Brothers, who I'm sure some of you probably already know who they are, and the Catholic Climate Covenant. They're a national DC-based organization, very similar to the Laudato Si movement, that's inspired by this encyclical written by Pope Francis that has been really foundational in a lot of Catholic creation care work in the past 10 years. This is the 10th year anniversary for Laudato Si, and one that's very important for young people like myself. And so these two organizations, they got together and they had this idea: what if we bring people together during this Jubilee, during this holy year, to get young climate organizers into this pilgrimage during this Jubilee? And so what they did was they gathered 14 young climate organizers and activists like myself who have been involved in climate justice work, to gather together, to go to Assisi, to go to Rome, to go to this big Raising Hope conference, to see Pope Leo in person. And this Raising Hope conference was hosted by the Laudato Si movement. It's considered a conference sort of in convention with COP30. We had the Brazilian Prime Minister for climate change there present at the conference, which is really just extraordinary, especially just in anticipation of COP30. And so talked a little about what is the Jubilee. I can assure you there was this many people there both days that we got to go to St. Peter's Square, which was incredible. And so during this trip, I mean, we participated as being Pilgrims for Hope, particularly from the lens of creation care. We are young climate organizers from the Maryknoll, from Catholic Climate Covenant, who care about the planet. I mean, we're young people. We know that this planet's our home and will continue to be our future. And so, I mean, that in itself gives us hope to be involved in this advocacy journey, but also just to go out to Rome. Very dearly and sadly miss Pope Francis, and all the work that he did to really cement our love for creation, love for the poor, in Laudato Si and Fratelli Tutti, and now grateful to have Pope Leo. I mean, with his new apostolic exhortation, I haven't had the chance to read it, but have read many good things about it. Really caring for the poor, realizing that our faith and caring for the poor are just inextricably linked. A little bit more about me. I figured I'd just gather a bunch of pictures to tell a bunch of stories for all of you. I think that's, I don't know, kind of the best way to put it. This past summer, I spent 5 months up in Sacramento for State Senator Marilena Durazo's office. Been in her office for about a year, back down in her district office. I went to a Jesuit high school, so kind of Catholic educated all my life. Bourbon Day Jesuit High. Graduated, like Mark was saying earlier, from Loyola Marymount University, majored in theology and Spanish. So I think my love for Catholic advocacy and liberation theology has kind of always been there. Grew up in South Central LA, had a really wonderful experience at the age of 19 to engage in this synod experience with Pope Francis. He was engaging college students, and that was a this really foundational experience for me. I mean, talking about immigration justice, but also ecological justice. And then from there, getting more involved in creation care work. Here's just a photo of me at a rally with Father Greg Boyle, really famous, really influential Jesuit. On the right here, you see me carrying what is the original Cesar Chavez March Delano Grape Strike, the original UFW, NFWA like Virgin Mary that was held at the front of the rally, and that was just a really really cool experience. This summer, I was staffing a resolution on denouncing mass immigration raids, which is really really important. So that's just kind of me in the center introducing it on the Senate floor. On the right, my one of my mentors has a replica of the Oval Office, not the real Oval Office, sadly. One day maybe I'll get a chance to sit down there. Um, and then just a picture with the wonderful civil rights leader and icon, Dolores Huerta. Many, many more stories to tell, but just a little quick intro. And then I mentioned that a lot of us have been involved in climate advocacy. This is just a little bit more about what I've done over the past 2 years, involved with the Catholic Climate Covenant and their Common Home Core, in engaging California Catholic Conference of Bishops to sign on to a lot of the Sea Action movement, saying yes to the platform, being on a retreat here on the bottom left. We were in Chicago for our Common Home Core. On the top left, I believe, Mark, you were there. We were hosting high school students from all across the diocese up in Sacramento to advocate for a legislative package that cares for creation and cares for our immigrant neighbors, brothers and sisters. And so this was, I mean, a powerful display, as you can see, of about 300 high school students from almost every diocese in the state coming up to Sacramento and advocating for legislation that's important. And I was able to MC, co-MC alongside a USF student, that conversation, which is really, really cool. And then speaking at a Laudato Si movement / Catholic Climate Covenant event on what the new apostolic exhortation at the time, Laudato Deum, meant for young people. And then Dan Misley, who's the executive director for the covenant. That's what we call the Catholic Climate Covenant. But enough about me. Now I'm actually gathered a bunch of pictures to actually bring you all along with me on our pilgrimage. So I hope you're excited. And I'm saving you like a 13-14 hour flight. So so first, I mean, we got to Rome and then right away got on a train to get to Assisi, and it was beautiful. I mean, we're talking about the resting place for Saint Francis, resting place for Saint Clare, Saint Carlo Acutis, a place that was very dearly loved by Pope Francis. And so we stayed at the guest house of the Franciscan Sisters of Atonement. As you can see, just a wonderful view from there. This was our first group picture when we first arrived. As you can see, just a group of all young adults engaged in climate work, which is been inspiring for myself, and I hope for many of you. And then while in Assisi, we got to do so much. I mean, we visited St. Francis's tomb, we visited his basilica. We also got to see St. Clare of Assisi's basilica, and the hermitage that the Franciscans made where St. Francis used to go up in the caves and in mountains. So here we just kind of see some pictures. In the middle center top, there was a reflection that we were leading. Um, where we were all on a hike and we were tasked before a reflection to grab something in nature that really just sticks out to you. And then when we came together, really reflecting on what that piece meant to us, but also being an appreciation and gratitude for Pachamama. Pachamama is an indigenous rooted word to call Mother Earth. And so it was just a really powerful experience. I mean, being grounded just as St. Francis would in Assisi, in nature, being in the woods, being in the caves where he would go and literally write like the canticle of creation, the canticle of creatures, to be an appreciation of God's creation and for us to be there out of breath and all. And I mean, just other pictures that you can see here from St. Clair, St. Clair of Assisi's resting place. Here on the right to that picture, on the top left, we have the San Damiano, the church that St. Francis was called to build at the time. Um, those breads, I took a picture of them because there was a miracle that St. Clair of Assisi, I think, had made bread at some point, and then when they came out without her intent, they had come out with the cross on them, which was really, really, really cool to see. Yeah, just some really cool pictures. Following Assisi, we had gone on a trip back to Rome, took the train where we spent the day at the historic event, the Raising Hope Conference in Castel Gandolfo, which, as you can see already, I mean, some really, really cool experiences. On the bottom left, you see Pope Francis entering this room of about 400, 500 people at the conference, and the aura in the room just changed, the whole atmosphere. I mean, everyone noticed that this presence was in the room. And Pope Leo is a tiny man. Did not expect to see him from this far. I got a good video, but couldn't quite get it on here. And the conference itself, I mean, hosted number of speakers, but most, I think, just really attractive, or just that stood out. If anyone's ever seen the movies The Terminator or knows who Arnold Schwarzenegger is, he was there giving testimony. Pope Leo, which was really, really cool. And at some point, Arnold Schwarzenegger had said, you know, we're here with an action figure, and he was referring to the Pope. And he said, jokingly, you wouldn't think it because he doesn't have the big, strong muscles. But here he is, and here we all are, and we're all doing this work to terminate pollution, which is a really powerful message. And one, if you've ever seen The Terminator, that we found quite gratifying. And then at the end, Pope Leo responds saying, we're all action figures. We're doing this climate work, doing this climate justice work, which is, yeah, I mean, just really, really powerful and hit the heartstrings. And I think also, I mean, to be able to see this in person, here's blessing glacial ice, actual ice that comes from glaciers, which I mean is just so powerful symbolically, but also just as people of faith, like understanding the importance of this. Yeah, and then another group picture on the top right. And so youth were presente. That's what we say in Spanish, as youth were present at the conference. Here's a picture of us getting some really good seats, almost kind of in the middle of the conference. And then there was some young high schoolers just kind of a little bit ahead of us, and one of them had an actual climate clock to show and distribute. And so I thought that was just really, really powerful that young people were there in the room. And this is a international conference in Rome, very far for a lot of us. I'm from South Central LA, not only a far flight, but also just very, very far. Um, Next day, we visited St. Maria's Basilica, where Pope Francis' resting place is. Again, someone who we dearly miss. On the left, you see some holy doors entering the basilica, entering the resting place. And then here on the right is what's considered to be Jesus' baby cradle. Not sure if it's entirely factually accurate, but it was still really cool to see. And then on the right was St. Francis's tomb. Not sorry, Pope Francis's tomb. Um, we were reflecting very heavily in this moment. I mean, when you enter the church, it feels, I mean, noisy. There's a lot of people, tourists coming in, but then when you're in front of the tomb, everything just becomes very real. I mean, we all know that Pope Francis' loss seems very recent. Sometimes still coming to terms with it. But when you're there, it's just emotional. And just understanding, I mean, who Pope Francis was. He was someone who really made big strides and including women's leadership in the church and including young people in the church and talking about creation care, the care for migrants, care for the poor, really emphasizing that in our faith that, when we love, we don't just love on the interpersonal level, we also love on the social level. And as a young person, I mean, Pope Francis always said that as young people, we're not the leaders of tomorrow, we're the leaders of today, we're the present. And so, I mean, for us, this was probably maybe the highlight, but also the most saddest part of the trip, um, of this pilgrimage. The following day, we went to the smallest country in the world, Vatican City, which is very weird to call it that. But I mean, also just great experience to have going to the Vatican Museum, seeing an actual sketch out of the Vatican, and seeing so much incredible art that, I mean, I wish I can show you all, but it would have just been hundreds of slides of pictures. But I do, if you ever get the chance, I mean, it's a beautiful experience, beautiful place to be and see. Um, Following few days, we continued into the actual pilgrimage. On Saturday, there was a blessing of sorts from Pope Leo, really welcoming all of the Jubilee pilgrims. Um, and then on Sunday, there was the World Day of Migrants and Refugees. And so also got to see Pope Leo in Mass. And as you can see, you're probably waiting for me to talk about Pope Leo and the Pope Mobile. I feel like we always hear the Pope Mobile, but we never actually see it. And so I was blessed enough to actually be there and see Pope Leo right there. I mean, you can see him from here. It was a very dangerous situation. I decided to include a funny picture on the bottom left there. Me standing on top of a chair and just a lot of people crowding. Some people standing on top of 5 chairs to be able to get a higher vantage point to see Pope Leo. Was lucky enough. Whenever the Pope comes around, he's blessing all the babies. There is a baby sort of right in front of us, so you can see that there, which is really, yeah, beautiful experience. One of our youth that was on the trip, Sarai, she works for Maryknoll. She said that she was actually right there, where the Pope Mobile is, right in the front. Somehow she got up there and she was saying something about, I think Go Cubs was the team. She's from Chicago. Pope Leo's from Chicago, and apparently he had made like a little gesture, like yeah. So I thought that was a really really funny experience. And then on the top right, you see the holy doors that are open at St. Peter's Basilica. Some of you probably know, I mean, a jubilee is really celebrated usually every 25 years. And so it's said that these doors would only be open for this jubilee and that they may not be open for the next 25 years. And so, I mean, just a really powerful experience to walk through them, to see them, to touch them. Um, I mean, they always say 25 years, it might be less, but still really cool to walk through the stores. We have a tiny group picture at the bottom there, and then on the bottom right, the altar of St. Peter's Basilica. We actually got to celebrate Mass there too on Saturday. I think we were all really tired after a very long week. I mean, we'd seen Assisi, we'd been at the Raising Hope conference in Rome. I think we were getting 8,000 steps average a day, and then the altitude was like 2,000 feet. So I think we all just needed the Mass to really get a little bit of rest in there. Yeah, and then following the Jubilee celebration, there was this concert, a big celebration. On the left, we see the Cardinal from the Philippines giving the introductory words, and there was music and dancing from representation from all over, from the Philippines, from India, from Colombia, from different countries and continents all across the world, different languages coming together. I only included one picture. I think I'm particularly biased here, just being the son of Mexican immigrant parents, of loving Mexican music and Mexican food. There was a mariachi, and as soon as the mariachi played, you can feel everything shifting of everyone wanting to dance and sing and asking for an encore, saying one more, like una más. And this wasn't our group here on the right, but one of the young people decided to just hop on in there and they were welcoming him to dancing mariachi. And there was a point after where they asked him, "Oh, do you even know Spanish?" And he said no, and they didn't care. They kept dancing with him, which is, I think, just a really powerful experience. I mean, these are pilgrims, Catholics from all over the world coming together, speaking multitudes of different languages. I mean, all throughout the trip, very few. I don't think any of us knew any in Italian, and still somehow interacting with people, having laughs, and being out there. And at this concert, being able to just enjoy each other and have fun. So, this was a little sign that I saw sort of in the middle of a trip in Assisi. Um, it's like good buen camino, peregrino, like good trip, pilgrim. So I thought it was just a really cool way to top off this presentation. Aside from probably one of my favorite parts of the trip, the food. There's so much good food in Rome. I mean, from the sandwiches, the pasta, more and more pasta. I learned what gnocchi pasta was. I'd never had it before. And everything was just really, really good. Even from going to the airport, the pizza, the gelato. I learned that when you go to Rome, you have to have the gelato that's in the canisters. And if you go to a gelato shop and you can see the gelato out in the open, that's a touristy spot and that you shouldn't go there, which is a new experience for me. But yeah, I mean, that's really the end of my presentation. I know Mark had wanted me to go a little longer, but I think it's a short group, so I don't want to keep you all too long. But if anyone has any questions, I mean, more than happy to answer anything.
Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you, Paco. Yeah, it's
Paco, that was so, so awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing and letting us be a part of your experience.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you all for being here, especially
Yeah.
late. I know some folks are tired. Um,
Yeah. No, yeah.
So
So go
I have
ahead,
a question.
Karen.
So have you been sharing your experience with some young people in at your university or through, different means? Are you
Yeah, I mean, definitely sharing with friends. There was a event that I had spoken at last week, surprisingly called Project Jubilee from a mentor of mine that has a nonprofit that leads a few like leadership development workshops for ages 18 to 22. So I'd shared about my trip briefly, but not really to this extent. I mean, if you have high school students or college students that you think would benefit from this, I mean, I'm more than happy to share about my experience. Yeah.
well, we're definitely going to have to do have a little extra when we do the youth summit again. I was part of that.
Mhm.
In that picture, I was the corner person
Oh
off to the
wow.
side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Oh.
I wasn't there, Paco, that one.
Okay,
But
yeah.
but um yeah, so was there any difference you detected in how Pope Leo and this Raising Hope conference was taking forward, the message of Laudato Si and Laudato Deum? Did you notice any difference or more of a
Yeah.
continuity with Pope Francis?
Hmm. I think definitely more of a continuity. But something that, I mean, we spoke about this at length on the trip. This is a pope that speaks English, which is very, very new to us, very weird. But I think also just very necessary, especially just, I mean, Laudato Diem was a wake-up call, sort of a continuation of part two of Laudato Si to say, like, hey, these corporations need to do more, and big national powers, international powers, especially, I think the US has played a huge role as a international global leader in contributing to climate change, and there's a need for more from us. I mean, having chosen, I think, Arnold Schwarzenegger as a speaker for the conference was also a key move. He was a Republican governor in California, and California itself has been leading the charge in environmental leadership. And so I think, I mean, just in that regard, having an American Pope who understands the US political system, who can keep the work going in environmental justice. I mean, I think it was a continuation, but a good continuation that can expand to different, hopefully, different populations of folks that would never reach the message because it was translated. But definitely good messages of hope. I mean, this Pope is younger. I think he'll be around by the time I have kids, which is crazy to think about. Um, yeah, I hope that, I don't know if that answered your question,
Yeah,
but
no, that'd be my and he did. Maybe it seemed like the main Raising Hope conference was all in English,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, no, that was
and the Pope spoke in English for this.
yeah, the Pope
So
spoke in English.
I hear the message loud and clear coming to
Yeah.
the US.
Yeah. I mean, thinking about it, he's in Italy speaking English at an international conference. I don't know. It's just English has become such commonly spoken and a huge power because of who the United States is. Yeah, which is a good and a bad thing. No.
Very good, very good. And was there were you able to speak with any of the students from other countries to get a sense
Mm,
of how they're looking at the issues?
yeah, I can't say that we did. I think our group kind of stuck to ourselves most of the time, which was probably not what we should have done. But I think that would have been a really cool experience to have. We were at some point supposed to meet with a nonprofit in Rome that does environmental advocacy and organizing, but they unfortunately couldn't make it. They for good reasons, decided to partake in international strike that was happening in Italy at the time, in support of just human rights in the Middle East. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone else want to ask a question, Paco?
I'm an open book.
So, how are you personally, as a young person, Paco, spreading the Laudato Si message or the Laudate Deum message within your own church community?
Yeah. I mean, shockingly, I'd never heard of Laudato Si until I was in college. I was maybe like my second, third year in college. I was taking a course on Laudato Si in Care for Our Common Home. So, I mean, as a young Catholic, I never knew that you could engage in environmental advocacy from your faith perspective and do it because you love nature and love God and God's creation. I think for a lot of people, that rings true. There was a study done by someone that works at the Catholic Climate Covenant, that maybe I think it was like 30% of only 30% of Catholics have heard of Laudato Si. And I think that there's this dissonance between, I mean, like Pope Francis talks about Laudato Si, wrote Laudato Si 10 years ago, but there's some disconnect between the USCCB and it actually getting into our churches every single day. And so I think the Catholic Climate Covenant has known that, recognized that, and started this program, the Common Home Corps, that I've been a part of for the past 2 years, that engages young adult leaders in dioceses all across the U.S. to engage their own diocese and engage in this Laudato Si work. And so, I mean, myself, doing what I'm doing now, talking to people, engaging young people. Uh, Meredith McCarthy, if you know her from the Laudato Si movement. We've gotten together a few times with Jess, who's my partner in this LA Laudato Si movement work, to help do presentations, organize what they call Yes at St. Monica's Church in LA. It's their Youth Environmental Summit. So talking to young people there, presenting about Laudato Si, encouraging them to write letters to Archbishop Jose Gomez in LA, which is a really cool experience. And then not too long ago, we hosted a environmental conference at LMU, Loyola Marymount University, where we got about 100 students with Heal the Bay and Catholic Climate Covenant co-sponsoring about 100 students from different high schools in the Archdiocese of LA to come and do an environmental conference. To learn about Laudato Si, to learn how in their communities they can fight fast fashion and pollution, and they themselves do composting at home, and doing it at a Catholic university, LMU, which is, I mean, just great for high school students to be able to see, like, oh, you can come here and continue to learn about this and do this kind of thing. I know we've also done different presentations. Jess was at RE Congress last year, doing this kind of work, and the Covenant continues to do it. And I mean, I hope I can still continue remaining involved.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, again, speaking for, our small group, and a lot of the groups are top heavy with people older, but our goal is to support the younger people in this as well. So
No, and
that's
please know.
that's the way I see my role.
Right. No, I'm pleased not. I mean, as a young person, like that's inspiring to see. Especially because I mean, at the forefront of the media, we see usually older generations not doing that and not taking the charge for young folks. We see them instead prioritizing corporate interests and greed and oil interests. But it's great to see. I mean, folks as old as my parents and older, like being engaged in this work, caring about their grandchildren and their kids. I mean, I mentioned it earlier, for us young people, I mean, Earth is our home and continue to be our future. So I mean, I thank you all for doing this work, and I mean, having been doing it. I know when I was up in Sacramento, there was a lot of usually older generations coming out to engage in lobbying and advocacy for environmental bills, and a lot of what I heard was, I'm a grandma and I care about my grandkids, and to me, that's the best. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
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 One last question,
Yeah.
Paco. So okay, so I'm very, very active. I live in Sacramento, and I quit work as a nurse to advocate for the earth, and so I work through the Catholic Church and also in the secular areas, advocating at the state capitol regularly. But I'm wondering how you feel would be best to spread this message among young people. The Advocacy Summit was our idea from the California chapter of Laudato Si movement,
Yeah.
to bring people to Capitol to recognize that they can do their part in advocacy work. But I was wondering if you can think of any other ideas of how we can get more young people on board to understand it and to be a part of that movement.
Yeah, no, a powerful, loaded question. I mean, I have an idea or two now, but always more than happy to connect offline and continue the conversation going. I mean, I think something that we had a videographer interviewing every one of us while we were on the trip, and something that she asked was, what's the importance of having both the spiritual and the activism here? And I think that when you have the spiritual, you gain and grow a passion for what we're doing and appreciation for God's creation. And then from that, you gain the love and the need to have that passion to want to advocate for that creation. And so, I mean, I think it goes from like teaching young people what Laudato Si is, like, their Catholic faith at Sunday Mass doesn't just have to be, praying and kneeling and praying a rosary, which is important, but also it could be going and advocating for it, but also engaging young people through social media. One of the tombs that we got to visit was that of St. Carlo Acutis, and I think his story is one that rings true, that we need to engage in this new digital age, young people through media, through social media, through videos, through campaigns, going to them where they're at. I know Mark reached out to a lot of high school students. You all continue in the Laudato Si movement here in California to keep engaging high school students, and I think that's what needs to keep happening. But again, I mean, starting from that, getting that passion. I think Meredith had engaged in something, I think it was a frisk, is what she called it. Something climate frisk. That was a really cool activity that young people got to engage in. But I think more of those, and also just engaging on social media.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
I was there just to recognize the very first day, and I thought it was powerful, and I was far away on a Zoom call to see the iceberg and see Schwarzenegger, Governor Schwarzenegger talk, and to see Pope Leo. And I can't even imagine what it must have felt like to be in that same room. So I'm so glad you had that opportunity to experience that and share it with all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Paco. Anybody else have any questions? Just come off mute. Just ask them.
This is Carolyn. I'm just thinking it's so wonderful to hear his positive attitude, and we need that. But I think it's very challenging right now, since our national or federal government is not going this way.
Yeah.
So I admire you and how to maintain the positivity, which you have to. And I don't know whether you have any tips on how to maintain positivity.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's at the national level. I mean, not even just in environmental advocacy, just across the board. I mean, being from Los Angeles, or one of the communities that's been hit the hardest, especially when it comes to immigration raids. And Pope Leo has thankfully been a voice of hope for us in this time. I mean, it can be hard. I think the way that I find hope, especially in these trying times, is being able to look at people that I admire, people in my faith tradition, my local bishops. One of the bishops in my church is now one of the regional bishops, auxiliary bishops in LA, and he's been engaging in a lot of this work, really opening ears to hearing about Laudato Si. And I think, I mean, just talking about it, like coming to events like this and hearing from other people, like, this is something I care about, and we're doing something about it, and we're actually getting somewhere, even at the local level. I mean, California, I work for a state senator, so I'll be coming back to California all the time, night references, but California signed a lot of really big environmental bills, really cool environmental bills. Still have a lot more work to do, but also just really inspired by that. And even at the federal level, it's tough, and we have 3 more years of it, unfortunately, until something big can happen. Maybe 1 more year in the next election cycle, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I mean, it can be hard. I don't know if I really provided an answer to your question, but it's good to just find hope in the everyday. Whether that's like, I like to go out in nature and go hiking and take a deep breath and look out into nature and be like, oh, God created this, and this is powerful, and I'm here and I'm believing it and I'm seeing it. But also, like, in groups like this, like, God is present and God is here, and we can find hope in that.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much.
That is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes, and it shines through,
Yeah.
and it's wonderful. And so thank you so much for sharing this, and thank you everyone for coming. And with your permission, we will post this on our website. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Good luck to you, and keep up the great work.
Yeah, keep up the great work, Paco. And we're praying for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Nice to see you, Mark.
Nice to see you, Earl. Bye-bye.
Bye.
But
My name's Mark Rutkowski, and I'm from the Laudato Deum prayer network for climate healing. And I just wanted to go through a couple slides about our prayer network that we've started. And you're all welcome to sign up. It's laudatodeumsolidarity.org. It's very easy to sign up. And what we're trying to do is offer a clear and simple way of expressing solidarity for climate healing and to build a network of prayerful supporters to help catalyze individuals, parishes, and church leaders about the climate crisis, and have it be a leaven for other efforts, much bigger efforts, such as the Laudato Si movement and the Action Platform and Catholic Climate Covenant, to name just a few. And I want to. A lot has been, focused on Francis, understandably, because he wrote Laudato Si, but we can go back, and we could go back earlier popes as well. But just going back to John Paul II in 1990, the World Day of Peace, was saying all of these things that were key elements that we see later in Laudato Si about the ecological crisis being a moral issue, and that we have to take this seriously, and it's a respect for life and the dignity of people, and that it's part of our Christian call. And so that was 1990, and then Pope Benedict, same thing, also on a World Peace Day, which the title of which was, "If you want to cultivate peace, protect creation." And he went on about how we can't be indifferent to this, including climate change, deterioration of everything, including our water sources, and also, speaking of the refugee crisis caused by this, and the immigration issues, and so this is not new, but it was inspiring to me to see very clearly how, looking back, seeing how this has already been addressed. And so we have this network. We're growing slowly. It joining, in and of itself means you're taking action and inspiring others, because it can help us all overcome the many feelings that prevent us from responding to the crisis. And it can help us connect in the back end. It can help connect people locally and beyond to continue this work. And if you're in the LA area, we are having a mass at the cathedral. It's not an official Care for Creation mass, but it is welcoming the Laudato Si movement, which is a big change. And so we're encouraging everybody in the LA area to possibly come to this. And you can also make it a pilgrimage of hope for creation by doing a self-guided tour of some of the saints in the cathedral tapestries that we have. And that's an especially good activity for the children. You can get the link to that in this sign up link. And then we are encouraging a prayer, taking an hour of prayer during, we put out prayer slots during the sessions for COP30. So you can sign up for that. And all of these you can get at our website at the events page.